Welcome back, folks, to 2 Brits 1 Puck. I'm your host, Mr. Intangibles, and a cave-clearing boy, Dan Masters, with my good friend, a man who likes to read the rulebook, and a man who ripped guitar riffs across Eastern Europe. Will every human. Will, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, Dan, but as many people have been experiencing today, it's not the best day to be too jubilant about the state of society at the moment. I don't think with the cold-blooded murder of George Floyd at the hand of the Minneapolis Police Department, and all the protesting that has led to rioting across Minneapolis, and I'm sure similar situations will be cropping up all across the United States in the days to come. It's been a hard day to be particularly jubilant about the lighter things in life.
Yeah, I agree. It's Christ. I mean, where to begin? It's just as always, it's just a damn shame we even have to have these conversations, and we have to have these conversations. I can't understand. Do you know what? I can understand sometimes. We've tried to do it while this whole coronavirus thing's been happening, and some weeks we talk about it, some weeks we don't, because we don't want it just to be all about that all the time. But this is something different. The George Floyd death is just another horrendous example of the crises that hit people all over the world, not just in Minneapolis or in America. You know, people of colour, different races, different ethnicities, even different sexual orientations. It's just like no one's ever safe from just presumptions about them, and I don't know, it's just horrendous. I will say that the police officer, this is kind of breaking news from 20 minutes ago, the police officer who was kneeling on George Floyd's neck has been charged with murder and manslaughter.
Oh, has he been charged? I knew he'd been taken into custody, but he's actually been charged.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah, he has. George Floyd's never coming back. I get it, you know, there's a process to follow legally and it's the right thing to do, but...
Yeah, we can't strictly go out and enact vigilante justice upon the man, though, you know, many would argue that he deserves to lose his life too, and I can't say I'd necessarily argue too viciously against him. But, sorry, you were going to say, Dan?
George Floyd's never, you know, his family's never getting him back, and we shouldn't have even been in that position in the first, you know, we shouldn't even be in this position in the first place, that another innocent black man has just lost his life because of, you know, inherent racism, problems in society, poor training, poor social skills when dealing with people of different ethnicities and colour. Just a massive shit show on all fronts. And when people put on Twitter that, you know, the last 3 terrorist attacks by white males, those white males have just been arrested and taken into custody, yet there are 3 black men who have died because one was on his phone, one was just sat in his car. You know, George Floyd was saying, "I can't breathe," and those guys are dead. Yeah, if you're a white guy with a gun and you go in and blow away a school of kids, it's just, well, come on, Sonny, let's see what problems you've had in life and we'll talk to you about it, shall we?
So to go back to the reason for arrest, George Floyd was arrested for a bounce check.
Yeah.
It's like you or I going into the shop and having your card declined, and then you're violently taken into custody when you're not resisting arrest. An officer refusing your appeals for mercy when he's got you in an unnecessary restraint and you are clearly saying that you cannot breathe, which, you know, last I fucking checked, saying you can't breathe is saying you are going to kill me if you carry on doing what you're doing. It's outrageous, and it really just shows the people who have any problems with the protests in Minneapolis last night and carrying on into today, I'm sure, you're just exposing your either complete lack of understanding and willful ignorance of the situation, or the fact that you're so pro-police, you're anti-human life and specifically anti-black lives. That's as simple as it is. There's no need for sort of reasonable discussion over these topics because there is no discussion to be had. You are either pro-police brutality or you are pro-human life, pro-black lives. And it's a situation where there are so many people that are getting their backs up at saying, "Oh, I'm a police officer and I've never brutalised a person in custody." Like, if you aren't, like with so many issues around race and gender and identity in the world at the moment, if you feel upset by the things that people are calling other people out on, calling the bigots out on for their behaviour, if you're saying, "Well, I don't do that," you're not the fucking problem. Sit the fuck down and pipe the fuck down. The discourse online and in the media is just it's showing people's arses in one way or another.
At some point, society just says enough is enough, and this is what happens when enough is enough. What do you expect? You're just gonna keep killing unarmed black men, and everyone's just gonna keep forgetting about it and trying to pass it off? No. At some point, when your voice isn't being heard, and you're not being taken seriously, you have to go to extreme measures. And the people last night who rioted felt as though, you know what, at this point, that's it. What else are we supposed to do? And I think it's hilarious, like, Colin Kaepernick takes a knee over police brutality, and he is absolutely vilified in the media, trying to spin it into something else. And this is exactly the thing he was talking about. And yet, doing a silent protest and trying to do it the proper way also apparently didn't work. So if I'm going to take a knee and do it silently, to just make a point, to just say, look, we need to be careful of this, if that doesn't work, what do you expect? After that, if it keeps happening, I'm just going to start kicking and screaming. And that's what society's done in this case.
And it's like you say, Dan, it's not just that the Kaepernick protests and the others involved in such protests, it's not just that it didn't work and nothing changed. You said he was vilified, and he absolutely was vilified. The man hasn't played an NFL game since that season. He's been excommunicated from his job, from his livelihood, not based on his skill, based on his political opinions and his political actions. And you had, like, Mike Pence, the Vice President of the United States of America, left the game because Colin Kaepernick knelt for the flag. You had an entire section of the United States population up in arms, ready to quite frankly lynch Colin Kaepernick for what he's done, and in their words, disrespecting the flag and disrespecting America. When your peaceful protests are met with the rage and anger that you would expect from violent protest, and still nothing is done about it, why not? You're getting the response from a violent protest anyway, and you're not getting the results, so you might as well go to the violent protest because you can't have a worse response. What's the MLK line? It's rioting is the language of the unheard, and that's absolutely what's happened. Yeah, sorry to derail the podcast immediately into something depressing, but it feels like I hope today is a turning point. I do. I hope the last few days have been a turning point for race relations in America and worldwide, because it feels like we're in an important situation, and it needs to be talked about, and it needs to be, to bring it back into hockey, where we were talking about Akeem Alou last week and however many weeks before, and we have consistently talked about the issues of race and identity and representation within the hockey world. If we do not have members of the media, and I know it's a stretch to call us members of the media, but if we do not have members of the hockey community proclaiming their allegiance to people within the Black Lives Matter movement, and any people of colour, and any people of a minority identity, any part of the world, if we do not have members of the hockey community standing up and saying that we are with you and we will not stand for the injustices that are being dealt upon you, if you're silent, you are part of the problem. I just think we need to draw our line in the sand and say we are with you.
Yeah, some things I'm fine with us not talking about, and some things I think, you know what, that's probably not
our place.
I don't know enough. It's kind of not our place. We don't know enough about it. I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I have a difference of opinion with some things, and it's just not worth getting into it. But there are some things I just feel we have to talk about. I get it. This is a hockey podcast, and if you listen to this now thinking, why are you talking about this and not talking about hockey? That's the reason why. We cannot just ignore these problems and just say, I'm a sports player of any sport, these things don't apply to me. Because they do. It all applies to you. It all applies to me and Will and everybody. It's real life. And at some point, someone's got to say, even when we had Meredith on, Meredith said she's bisexual. She's not doing it to represent, or she just enjoys writing about women's hockey. And she says, I don't care if only one person hears me and thinks, oh wow, she's bisexual and she feels comfortable enough to do this, then maybe I'll give it a shot. We have to stand up as human beings, not just as people who talk about hockey on this fucking dopey podcast. We have to stand up as human beings and say, okay, we don't agree with this. Because do you know why we have to do it? Because how many fucking NHL players are going to come out and say, you know what, this is bullshit. This is fucking bullshit. How many? Like, what, 1% of players? 0.5%?
You got JC Brown, you got Curtis Gabriel.
Evander Kane, Evander Kane had a quote today.
Okay, there you go.
So Evander Kane's someone. But Evander Kane made a great point. He said, like, why aren't Tom Brady and Sidney Crosby saying stuff? Like, they're the people. They're who people listen to. They're the players who people will listen to.
It shouldn't be on minority players because it's not a minority issue.
No, it's a world issue. It's a people issue.
The murder of people for their skin colour affects everybody, and if you pretend that it doesn't, again, you are part of the problem. Do not get that confused.
How many NHL players are going to come out and take a stand against something like this?
Fucking none of them. You're going to have Tony D'Angelo coming out and saying that he's starting a podcast where it's not going to be politically correct. Did you see that like 10 minutes ago?
Fucking yep, I did.
It's like, fuck's sakes.
To be fair though, Will, to be fair to Tony D'Angelo, the white man's voice is not heard enough on hockey podcasts, is it? Definitely not. I think
it's about time
that white hockey players had a voice, I think.
The problem I've always had with like Spitting Chicklets and Barstool and all of their content is it's just not Trumpy and racist enough. That's what I've really been looking for. I've wanted Spitting Chicklets but with more open racism, and I'm really hoping that Tony D'Angelo and Brendan Lemieux can provide, serve that niche corner of the market for us.
Oh, for sure. That's what the world needs right now.
That's it. That's where we stand. I think we've said all that we can before we start repeating ourselves.
Yeah.
Do what you can, raise awareness in any way that you possibly can. If you're able to donate money to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which is providing bail for any arrested protesters, or raising money towards bail for arrested protesters, and don't lose sight of the fact that we're in the middle of a global pandemic. Still stay safe out there. Just do what you can. Stay safe in all facets of life and for all reasons possible. And let's just hope that these dark days lead to a better future, which 1 million people before me have said, and hopefully not 1 million people will say after me.
I was going to drop this new segment later on in the show, but we have got a new segment called That's a Weak-Ass Statement. 2 inductees this week to the That's a Weak-Ass Statement Club. So first is Minnesota Wild.
Hey.
With their statement about George Floyd's passing. The Minnesota Wild is deeply saddened by the death of George Floyd on Monday night. Everyone in our community deserves a right to feel safe and protected. No kidding. These times call for our community to come together and not be divisive. Lol. Our hearts and prayers go out to the family and friends of George Floyd. Nice and fluffy. Nice and fluffy. Don't mention racism. Don't mention murder. Just say, hey, you know that guy who was murdered because he appeared divisive to other people? Well, let's not be divisive, shall we? Let's just all come together. Maybe the Minnesota Wild could have the Wild could have a big Ring and Roses session, or something like that, and get everyone involved.
I wouldn't even call that a fluffy statement. To me, it's very, very clear in their wording. Now is not a time to be divisive. In the midst of the protests within their own state, that to me is saying they do not support the protests, and to an extent, if you don't support the protest and the protest means, then you aren't fully supportive of the reason for the protest. So, and especially when you compare it to the other three major sports teams in Minnesota, their verbiage wasn't exactly let's go and kill all cops, but it was enough that it was neutral enough to the protests without putting their foot in it and making it sound like they're against it and they're pro police and anti-civilian sort of thing.
Yep, and you get a 2 for this week with the That's a Weak-Ass Statement Club. The second inductee was, who else but the NHL? Let's they're going to be permanent inductees.
Our weekly inductee.
Weekly inductees. Akeem Alou's story of his journey through amateur and minor league hockey is compelling, disturbing, inspiring, and above all, instructive. As a league, we've done a great deal of work over the last 3 decades to make hockey more inclusive. No, you haven't. Since last November, when Akeem first told his story publicly, these efforts have been accelerated, just in time. We know that important and significant work remains to be done at the NHL level, and throughout hockey to ensure that our game lives up to the ideals that are truly essential to it. and we value Akeem's continuing an important contribution to that effort. Again, not saying the word he was racially abused, or he was a victim of racism.
Or even the physical abuse side of it, even if they're not going to...
I was going to say, and the physical abuse.
It's the first line of that statement sounds like a fucking press release for a film that's just been aired at Cannes.
I'll read it again. Shall I do it in that voice? Akeem Alou's story of his journey through amateur and minor league hockey is compelling, disturbing, inspiring, and above all, instructive. Mark Kermode says, "This is the best hockey film I've ever seen. 5 stars." Fucking hell.
That's the only thing to say. Like, what?
I was going to say, I don't understand. I'm not even going to say that, because I do understand. I know why hockey players won't come out and say shit like this. Not partly. I don't think it's because all hockey players are racist, because I do not think that. Clearly some of them are. But it's clearly you can't say anything, because if you do, a percentage of our fan base is going to tell us to fuck off, and we're not going to get their money.
Yeah, we are vitally reliant on the Confederate flag waving dollar. Like,
so true. Oh God, it's so true.
It is. And it's particularly disheartening. Like, if I'm Akeem Alou, and I wouldn't want to pretend that I know what it's like to spend even a second in that man's shoes, but to me it comes across as like, yeah, we might be having ongoing talks with Akeem Alou about what we can do to further improve the culture around hockey, especially when related to issues around racism and abuse. The fact that they've not even named it, they've not even used the word racism like you say in the statement, to me says, no, we're not taking these talks seriously, because we can't even stare the issue in the face. We can't even name the issue in a public press release about the man who we're in direct talks with about solving the problem. How serious can you be if you're not actually talking about the thing you're meant to be solving?
Do you know what? You know when you read something, and then you actually read it. We've done a great deal of work over the last 3 decades to make hockey more inclusive. If that said 30 years, you'd be thinking, it's taking you 30 fucking years to get to this? It's taken 30 years to get to this point here, where it's still really shit.
We've been working for 30 years, and Keandre Miller is still being called the N-word on a live Zoom call.
It's taken 30 years. It's taken 30 years, and so far, this is the best we've got in 30 years. That's why they've put 3 decades, because you don't read that as 30 years.
30 fucking years.
Hell.
How bad must it have been 30 years ago?
30 fucking years. Oh, 30 years to get to here. God.
Unsurprisingly disgraceful. I just don't know what to do anymore.
Let's just get on to hockey talk before.
Come on, fucking hell! Like,
I say something
stupid or whatever. Distract ourselves from the horrors of real life in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Should we start the show?
Yeah.
Okay. God. 30 fucking years.
30 years. The NHL have been trying to eliminate racism from their sport longer than I've been alive.
Which, by the way, also shows that in the years before that, it didn't matter. So, for example, in 1989, it was fine. That's fine. But in 1990, hang on a minute, should we do something about this racism problem? Go on then.
As soon as the Senators and the Lightning came into the league, right, that's fucking it. I've had enough of this. We got to fucking sort it out.
I hope in 1990 the NHL. I'm going to leave this all in now. Actually, I'm hoping the NHL in 1990 hired some kind of inclusivity officer or something like that, and he said, "Okay, listen, I've got a 31-year plan. All right, now hear me out." The first 25 years might seem a bit rough, okay? But after that, I think we can really move on. And by the year 2020, all we're going to have is players being called the N-word. And then the player who said that getting his own podcast. What's a podcast? Doesn't matter. Forget about that. Don't worry about that for now.
Don't worry. That'll all come. All in due time.
It'll all come out in the wash. It'll be fine. It'll all come out in the wash. It'll be fine. Fucking 30 years. God.
If there really was someone who came in and said, I've got a 31-year plan, wouldn't you have thought that other GMs would have taken it on? They wouldn't be stuck on this 5-year plan nonsense.
I'll get a 31-year plan.
Right, I've got a 31-year rebuild for you boys. What do you reckon?
Yeah, here's how that interview goes. I've got a 31-year plan. No, you don't. Get out.
Oh dear. Fuck off. Not interested.
God. Fucking 3 decades. I fucking ask you. I ask you.
They've managed to add 10 teams since that plan was
all right, listen. By the time we get to the 32nd team, we'll definitely have this sorted out, okay?
Swear.
Promise. We'll definitely.
Swear down, mate. Swear down.
Honestly,
It'll be sorted.
Honestly. By the time the 32nd team gets here, we'll be sorted. And what's going to happen is in like 4 years, something else is going to happen because it happens every week. And the guy's going to say, all right, look, it's as soon as the 33rd team gets here, okay? I promise I'll have this fixed.
Right, let's be reasonable. When we get to 40, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
I just need... What am I supposed to do with this $700 million? How can I solve racism with $700 million? I need more. I need fucking more.
With the combined monies that Vegas and Seattle have pulled in, I mean, how am I supposed to spend $1 billion on promoting inclusivity in this sport? I just don't know how I can do that with $1 billion.
How much pride can a man buy with $1 billion? Not enough, I say.
Exactly.
Not enough.
Exactly.
Do you know how much it costs to illuminate the PNG Paints Arena in rainbow colours for 45 minutes?
Do you know how much bulbs cost? It's ridiculous.
Let alone the manpower. Do you know how many men it takes to screw in that light bulb? Those hundreds and thousands of light bulbs.
How many men does it take to change inclusivity light bulbs?
Well, 1 man in 31 years and counting.
We're real weak, folks. Don't forget to tip your waitress. Fucking hell.
Right. As we still haven't started the podcast yet, and we're talking about racism, should we just quickly talk about this Quinton Byfield ISS
fucking hell,
fucking
don't
profile? We've got a for anyone who hasn't seen it, so ISS scouting, well, I don't know what the ISS stands for, I don't fucking care. So they're like the ranking company for prospects or whatever. I think they're different from NHL Central Scouting, but they're sort of, I don't know, I'd heard of them, so they've got to be fairly big in the game. So they released, they're doing like a top prospects, little paragraph blurb of all the sort of big names that you've probably heard of, and they released one about Quinton Byfield. For anyone who's not particularly up on Quinton Byfield or any of the other prospects, Quinton Byfield is black, and he had the only profile in this series that ISS released that, first of all, had a headshot instead of a game shot for his photo, which was interesting. Also, the only prospect to be tagged in their profile, the only one who had their ranking listed, which was listed as number 4, even though he's the consensus second overall prospect and potentially an elite first-line centre in the future. And he was the only one out of X number of top prospects, sort of top 10 talents, fantastic players, and there's no doubt about the fact that Quinton Byfield is going to be a fantastic NHL player. He had the only bio that was negative, calling out his work ethic and his ability to adapt to change and stuff like that, which, as we've been saying for the last 20 minutes or however long it's been, is undoubtedly racist. Like, there is no way that you go from talking about fucking Marco Rossi and saying he's a skilled this and he's a creative that, or Lucas Raymond, he's got a high work ethic and goes hard to the net and all that, to then release, coincidentally, for the only minority player in your series, a negative review specifically highlighting man's work ethic and willingness to go to the dirty areas of the net, of the ice. It's just fucking outrageous.
The thing is, though, Will, right?
Thing is,
maybe they've got a point, Will, about his work ethic, because he's only got, so far, if you look at his elite prospects page and the player statistics at the top, league-wise, he's only had so far, in measured games, 373 points in 207 games. I mean, that's all.
Goal hanger,
so, I mean, clearly he's not putting the time in, clearly. I mean, in his under-15 AAA league for the York Simcoe Express, he only had 108 points in 33 games.
But the C in that AAA stands for captain. So that couldn't...
Does it? I didn't realise. Right.
That couldn't possibly mean that he was a hard worker, though, or had the respect of his teammates and his coaches.
No, of course.
No, and I mean, if I could take your eyes to this season, the 2019-20 truncated OHL season with the Sudbury Wolves.
Yeah.
His second in the OHL. So we had 82 points in 45 games. Yeah.
But who doesn't, Will? Let's be honest. I mean, who can't do that? Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's that. But then the thing that worries me is he only had 44 penalty minutes, and he only had a plus 26 on his plus minus, which, to me, if you were playing defence a bit better, you've scored 32 goals and you've let in at least 8. You've created 82 goals and you've arguably cost your team 50 odd, 58. It's just, I don't. For me, not the kind of player I want on my hockey team, personally.
No, not at all. I mean, especially not a player who's not going to go and work in those dirty areas and create things. You only had 50 assists in 45 games, but whatever. He's not going to create anything either.
Not a team player at all.
No.
If he could have gotten into the triple digits for Pims, maybe we'd see something you can work with.
Yeah, maybe.
But for a man with presumed character issues, you can only imagine. Not a student of the game, not a team player. Doesn't. I'm trying to remember the Tortorella comments about Duclair from last year, but.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So who could have imagined the ISS hockey prospects ranking team would be a bunch of racists, a bunch of Nazis, if you will. Who could have seen it coming?
Who could have seen? The clues are there, folks.
The clues are there. Hiding in plain sight. Fucking hell. Right, is that all the racism this week? Or we got any more?
I mean, I want to say yeah, but there's still time for this show to carry on. I mean, we could still have some breaking news in the next 45 minutes to an hour, Will. Who knows? I'm
deliberately not looking at Twitter because I don't want to see any more journalists arrested on live TV or any more fucking Tony D'Angelo tweets.
Oh, God. Fucking live sometimes. Jesus.
It's just too much. I can't fucking deal with it.
Sometimes, yeah. Oh, Christ. Right. Should we start the show?
If I say yes, are we actually going to do it?
Yes.
All right. Come on, let's do it.
All right. This has broken the record, by the way. Like 32 minutes in and we're starting the show.
Fucking beautiful.
Shout out to Marek versus Wyszynski.
Yeah, really, really bringing back the classics for that one. An homage.
All right. The NHL has laid out its return to play plan. We are not going to go through it because, obviously, with hockey news being a dearth, there's just, fucking hell, 67 articles in the first 6 minutes about what it means for every team. Fair play to people, because obviously reporters have to get these stories up and have to meet deadlines and have to fill out quotas for work for the year and all that kind of thing. But so we'll just get on to a couple of things on the side of it. I can't make my mind up if I like the fact that the top 4 seeds, they're playing for seeding or not. I can't decide. I mean, they are playing for seeding. I can't decide if I like that or not.
I'll tell you, Dan, you don't like it, and here's for why.
Go on, then.
We're always talking about football because we're English, and that's
of course
basically all we have to talk about. And we're always, we appreciate the league, don't we? There's an element.
Yeah, it's true.
So by having these, you've got your top 4 seeds and they've got the bye for the play-in round of the postseason, and that's good. That's rewarding you for what you've done in the 70 plus games of the regular season. But by having this sort of seeding tournament between the top 4 seeds, just as busy work, because that's all it fucking is. It's busy work for these teams. You are completely mugging off the entirety of the regular season. It's that, well done, Boston, for absolutely destroying teams for 69 games or whatever it was. Now you've got to play the Flyers and the Penguins and the Capitals, or the Capitals and the Lightning. If you have a couple of bad games on the first games back since February in a meaningless pre-playoff tournament, all of your work throughout the regular season has been undone. It's making an utter mockery of it, and that's why you don't like it.
Weirdly, being a Bruins fan, you think I would be vehemently against this idea. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Here's why I don't hate it. We were talking the other week about how do you make games between the top 4 seeds who get a bye meaningful? Mm-hmm. How do you do it? Why wouldn't, if the Bruins are guaranteed to be the first seed, and the rumours are you're going to have something, I don't know, like 30 skaters or 29 skaters or whatever it turns out to be, why would you just not send out all your scrubs and just, okay, who cares if we lose the first 6 games? All our players are rested. Like Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak, our top line's completely rested and fresh to go. You have to play for something. I think I said this, what I would have done was, I would have given the Bruins a point head start. So they start on 4 points, the Lightning start on 3, Caps on 2, Flyers on 1. That way there's at least a chance that, okay, you've got some kind of reward, but the tables could still turn. You know, if the things go right for the Flyers, maybe they could nick top spot. Because there was enough games left where, yeah, maybe they could have nicked top spot. We don't know. Maybe they could have done. I think there should have been something in that playing game in the round robin game for the top seeds.
Another problem I have with it, which you touched on very nicely in your little point, saying about, if it didn't mean anything, you'd rest your players and then you'd have your top line completely rested. Isn't the point of having a bye in a postseason so that you rest your players and then they're completely rested? Point. So now by introducing something that's worth playing for, in the sense that if you lose, you're losing home ice advantage, which while a lot of people are saying, well, it's not home ice advantage because it's not home ice, you still get last change, you fucking dolt. It's quite important. There is no advantage at all as to being in the bye, especially when you think you're playing supposedly meaningful games against better fucking teams. The whole thing is just mental. It's utterly mental.
Well done, Philadelphia, for putting that massive run together and going on an absolute tear towards the end of the season. Here's your reward. You're playing the 3 best teams in your conference.
yeah, exactly. And I just part of me wonders whether it's going to go pure NHL and nobody's going to try in these reseeding games, in the sense of, Boston have earned the right to be first, so we don't want to rock the boat and knock them out first or whatever. It's dumb. It's really dumb, because there's no way it's not going to be full level playoff hockey in this round robin. No way.
No, it won't be.
You might have teams taking it more seriously than like a pre-season game or whatever, or like a training camp scrimmage, but it's not going to be full on, because they know that it's not worth bursting a lung over whether you're first or second seed in the conference. So
it's not worth it. It's not worth it if you're first or fourth seed, regardless. No, it doesn't matter.
In some ways, as we've said before, if they don't reseed after the play-in tournament, you might be better off being the 4th seed in the end anyway. If you
were the coach then of the Bruins, the Lightning, the Caps, or the Flyers,
fuck,
are you gonna rest players, or bring them in for one game at the end, or
I don't know,
or just say to them, you know what, go out, can get your wind, but that's it. Don't go crazy. I think there's no point.
It's got to be like in pre-season games. Don't worry about the result. Just get your fucking legs under you. The real. Whatever will be. Because to an extent, if you come out, say the Bruins come out against the Capitals, and the Bruins are of the mindset of just get your legs under you, don't try too hard, don't bust a gut, and the Capitals are the opposite, and they're saying, I want to see you give in, I want you to leave it all out on the ice on every shift, then if I'm Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, I'm thinking, right, cool, if we get the Capitals in the second round proper, they're going to be more fun than we are. So it plays into your strengths in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you got, if you're one of those teams, if you're one of the top seeds, why the hell would you go out there risking injury in a nothing game?
In a pre-playoff tournament, it's effectively like the last 3 games of the season when you're already locked into a playoff position.
Yeah,
because nobody really tries those, and rightly they shouldn't. So I reckon, I think it'll be treated a bit like pre-season. You'll probably, where they're having 45 black aces on each squad, I reckon there'll be a lot of emphasis on getting those players up to speed and testing them out and seeing what you've got. Because that's effectively what it's going to be. It's going to be glorified pre-season. And I think to an extent the NHL would do well to not actually put any stakes at place. Because then that really does make it a bit more of an advantage. Like, look, here's the play-in teams will have their own training camps, presumably. So you'll have inter-squad scrimmages, but I assume they won't have any friendly games, any exhibition games. So to give purely exhibition games to the top 4 seeds in each conference would actually be a benefit as well. Arguably more of a benefit than playing quote-unquote meaningful hockey.
Did you message me thinking some teams might throw their series for a better lottery pick? Is that what you were getting at?
Oh yeah, like so with the play-in series, like obviously with the draft lottery, so they're doing like a 2-stage lottery sort of thing. They're going to draw for the first overall pick, and there's going to be like a team A through H, which will represent the 8 teams that could get knocked out of the play-in round. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're one of the teams that's playing in the play-in round, and one of the... Because I think the way it's going to work, they're going to draw. Say it's one of these mystery play-in teams.
Now I see what you're saying.
They're then going to redraw once they know who those teams actually are. So, because where they've all got a 3% chance at the number 1 pick, say it's drawn out, okay, Team C has the number 1 pick. After you know which teams they actually are, they're going to redraw again, just out of those 8 teams.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. So yeah, part of me thinks, is there not going to be a GM that's like, say you're Chicago or Montreal or whatever, or even the Rangers? You think, we weren't going to be in the playoffs anyway. If you've got a better chance if you've got a 1 in 8 chance at Lafreniere versus getting to the first round and getting swept by Lightning or whatever, what do you take? What would you rather do?
I don't hate that idea.
Obviously, it's never going to happen because the fucking NHL players are boring. Very short-sighted, Dan. Very short. Never see the bigger picture. Funnily enough, not many UFAs get throwing games so that the team can get a good draft pick.
I love the like the Panthers beat the Islanders and get through to play the Lightning, and the Lightning win 7-0. The Lightning win 9-0. The Lightning win the series with a 10-0 whitewash of the Florida Panthers. That's weird. Although the Panthers aren't picking second in the draft lottery, so
fucking there you go. I could see a few GMs' eyes widening if like the mystery team was pulled.
Yeah, especially if it's first or second.
Well, again, like it's all so confusing the sort of the way they've released it. I think they're picking for 1 through 3, aren't they? It's closer to like how the lottery was, but it's just hard to get your head around sometimes, isn't it?
I know. Like I said, just fucking do it after the fucking Stanley Cup's finished. Just do it after it's finished. Why not?
No one's in any rush. It's not like if you get the first overall pick, you suddenly have to be like, oh, who are we going to pick?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have any homework to do.
Your scout should have been watching game film for the past fucking 2.5 months, just in case.
Fuck me, yeah, innit? And again, with like the top 2, it's a bit of a no-brainer. When you get to 3rd, there's arguably a decision to be made, but yeah, you should be up to date on pretty much all those players, surely.
It won't matter anyway, because Sens are getting 1st and 2nd overall, so...
Oh, I don't know, part of me wants to see the intrigue of Mystery Team D being pulled out of the pot. I was like, oh, because then that made the play-in round a bit more interesting. Because it's like, all right, the winner gets into the playoffs, but the loser gets into the draft lottery. Oh yeah,
that's true.
Here we go.
That's a good point.
Then you can like microanalyze every single play and like, ooh, well, Tyson Barrie played that puck in front of his own keeper a bit willingly, didn't he? Maybe he's got instructions from Senor Dubas. Come Dubas goes down to the dressing room. He's like, right, got some new tactics for you boys. We're going to try and play out from the back. What, the D-men moving the puck? No. From the back, boys. Every time you get the puck, I want it straight onto Freddie's stick.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Well, to be fair, Dubas would never do that because the Leafs can't afford to sign anyone else, can they?
But even more reason to get a superstar on a 3-year entry-level contract.
Oh, shit, yeah, good point. Then they can trade away that pant-dropping troublemaker, can't they?
William Nylander's never dropped his pants, has he?
Not yet. Well, like I said, the show's still young. Right, just quickly, who you taking out the East? Who you picking to get to the final from the East? Just one word.
Tampa?
Flyers. And then the West?
I can't remember who's good. Who's good in the West? Give me a team.
The Blues?
No, fuck it. Yeah, like I don't like anyone to. I don't have money on anyone to win at the moment.
Not even the number 4 seed Dallas Stars.
I kind of want to go for the Dallas Stars because that's just how the world would torture me by letting the Stars win the cup and then meaning that Rick Bowness to get his job back, and then he could play Dennis Gurianov for 13 minutes a night for the next 5 years. Yeah, go on then. Chuck the Stars in there. Why not?
I'll take the Avs.
Yeah, why not? Who cares?
I was going to say, well, I will say as well, is we're kind of talking about seeding and play-ins, and is it fair? It's the fucking playoffs. Like, what? We never know what's going to happen anyway. Mate, so it doesn't matter, does it?
I'll tell you what, given the situation, I reckon we could end up with another 2006 situation with, like, not strictly Carolina and Edmonton in the final again, but I think there's a strong chance that none of the top seeds end up in the final.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And
if you told me it's going to be Florida versus Minnesota, I'd be like, yeah, all right.
This is it. I reckon you could have two, not just play-in teams like team. You could have at least one team that is not in the top 16 make it to the final. I could see it.
I totally agree.
I'd love to see that. I'd absolutely love to see it.
It'd be worth it to see the ratings.
What plummet when it's the Blue Jackets versus the Jets in the final?
Yeah, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final, only marginally beaten out in the ratings by reruns of Cops. So that's interesting.
I'd say don't cuss out Cops, but yeah, we should at the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
Fucking hell! This week, witness the.
We're on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and in the car on a drive to Durham to test our eyesight. And if you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes, that would be fantastic. As always, we're brought to you by Wave Intel. Jason and his crack team of stat badgers have been busy at work the past few days in prep for the return of the season. Take a look at a raft of data that is super easy to read and will help you appear smarter than you look. Wave Intel online and on Twitter, being smart, so you don't have to. I asked you a question on the chat this week. Who would be the best or funniest Canadian team to win the Cup?
It's got to be the Jets, isn't it? For this season specifically.
Really?
I think so. The funniest, like a team that came into the season with one NHL defenseman in Josh Morrissey. A team that specifically traded for Neil Pionk. How can you not say that wouldn't be the funniest Cup champion?
I do always get a kick as well out of players who maybe throw their toys out of the pram, thinking they're leaving a sinking ship, and then the sinking ship actually rises above all the others and wins.
Jacob Trouba.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I don't know if we'd say Jacob Trouba's thrown his toys out the pram. He was more exercising his rights under the CBA.
No, I was thinking more a one Mr. Dustin Bufflin.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't know if anyone's thrown their toys out of the pram this year, have they?
Well, I don't know if he's throwing toys out of the pram, but clearly he didn't want to play there anymore.
Yeah, that would add a level of hilarity to it.
And it all became a bit messy. I could decide if it was the Oilers or the Habs, because, like I've said before, a Canadian team doesn't win the Cup for something like nearly 30 years, and then the first team to win it again is one of the most successful ones. It couldn't be Vancouver or Calgary
or whatever. Yeah,
it'd have to be one of the ones who won it like last time, or who's actually successful. And maybe the Habs winning it by absolutely backdooring their way in when they've been absolute trash, and Bergevin's just been slated for the past 5 years, and then they win the Cup on a fluke.
It would be beautiful. It would be absolutely. I'll take the Habs out of the East just because it would be such a right. They were the last ones to win it in '93. Now they're the next ones to win it, and like you say, completely undeserving. And it also just being like lost in the shuffle of it's cup number 38 for the Habs or whatever it fucking is. Like the Montreal Canadiens could give a fuck about winning another Stanley Cup. Like, they've got plenty. It's like, oh, we won. Oh, right, cool. Oh, we broke the Canadian streak. All right, cool. Yeah, whatever. Just another one.
And then I thought as well, which team would be the funniest if they went out in either the playing round or the first round proper?
First round proper is the Tampa Bay Lightning. There is no question about it.
Absolutely.
No
Could
question
not agree
about
more.
it.
And they have to get swept. They absolutely have to get swept.
Yeah, it's not funny if they don't get swept. I think for the play-in round, maybe the Penguins, just because like they don't really deserve to. Oh, it's the Penguins out of the East, or definitely the Oilers out of the West, because the Oilers have been shafted for not being in the top 4 seeds.
Yeah, that's true. And then they're playing the Blackhawks, who you just know have, like, I don't know, some kind of mojo or something this season.
Yeah, if there's ever going to be a bullshit upset, it's going to be the Hawks over the Oilers.
Oh, Christ, forget a Canadian team winning the Cup. What if the fucking Blackhawks win the Cup this year?
That wouldn't.
Can you imagine?
That wouldn't be funny at all. There wouldn't be anything funny about that. Make me fucking sad.
Oh, dearie me. Dearie me.
The thing that's particularly tragic about the Oilers, and something that I've only really just noticed as like an issue with points percentage. So the Oilers have missed out on a top 4 seeding to the Stars. Stars have 0.594 points percentage and the Oilers have a 0.585. So yes, neither team is exactly great and deserving of a spot. But the Stars have played 2 less games than the Oilers. So the Stars have played 69, 37 wins, 24 losses, 8 OT losses. Oilers have 71, 37, 25, 9. The difference being, to end out the season, the Stars had a relatively significant losing streak of 6 games, if memory serves.
Yeah, something like that, wasn't it?
So there is an argument that if the Stars had played the same number of games as the Oilers, they would have lost those last 2 games and thus not been in the top 4 seedings.
Well, that's what's going to come out after it all, isn't it? It's going to be all the permutations and the stories, and do you realise if this goal hadn't been scored or if this penalty hadn't been taken, this team would have been here, they would have then played this team, and so on and so on and so on. So
yeah, exactly.
That's all going to come out in the wash, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be fucking lovely.
All right then, so in news surprising to everyone, but no one, Jason Botterill will be back for a 4th season in Buffalo, because clearly he has pictures of the Pagulas doing something unspeakable with buckets of fish or something. I don't know why. Well, let's break this conspiracy wide open. Why is he coming back?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, clearly, let's say this. It can't be for hockey reasons, so there must be something.
I think there's got to be some element of them thinking, we can't do it again. We can't hire another GM. I think he's only the 2nd GM they've hired since they've taken over the Sabres, isn't he?
That seems right, yeah.
Because they had Tim Murray? Yeah, Tim Murray. Who's the coach I'm thinking of? Ted Nolan. Tim Murray.
Oh, there you
anyway,
go, yeah.
So it's Tim Murray before him, and now it's Botterill afterwards. So I think to an extent they're thinking, well, if we hire a new GM, that's not necessarily going to get the immediate change that we want. So we might as well let him carry on. But I mean, you got Henry Yokoharu. He's going to be good, isn't he? Hopefully.
Hey, the Sabres, or they used to have a Conn Smythe on their team.
Yeah, but pre-Conn Smythe and Selke and all that, but they had him. They definitely had him. And
That's true.
Hey, Jason Botterill traded for him. Did he? I think.
Yeah. And he was miserable while he was there, so that's something. Because he lost his smile.
Is there another superstar centre on the Sabres who's miserable while he's there? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'll just a quick snapshot of Jason Botterill, Sabres GM, a brief history. He has failed to get that team to 80 points in 3 years. He is the only GM in history to trade a player who then became the Conn Smythe winner the next season.
That's fucking mental.
Isn't that insane?
That's beautiful.
I would never
isn't
have
it?
believed that was. I would never have believed that was possible. With all the teams that try and make that blockbuster deal to get to the cup final, and some of them have worked, I would never have thought that was the first time last season with O'Reilly.
I can believe it because, like, the NHL doesn't do trades.
I know, but I would have thought it would have happened once. That's the first time ever? I mean, that's crazy.
Probably the closest would be Joe Nieuwendyk with the Stars.
Yeah, maybe. That's a good show.
I think he was traded for, like, the year before.
I was thinking about... my thought... I know he didn't win it, but I thought maybe Jeff Carter could have been someone who was, had a shout, but...
Yeah, he'd have been close. Because he was traded in 2012, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, nah. Joe Nieuwendyk was traded like 4 years before. Excuse me.
No, fair enough.
Maybe it would have been Phil if he'd have gotten the console I think he deserved.
That's a good point, yeah. But still. Having that on your resume, fucking hell.
That's rough, innit? That is rough.
You know what else is on your resume?
Go on.
The beautiful Jeff Skinner contract. Beautiful Jeff Skinner contract.
Does the Jeff Skinner contract get offset by the fact that he's shackled Jack Eichel to the radiator in his basement for the next 6 years? I think it might do.
I'm going to give us a little bit of a back pat. At the time with that Jeff Skinner contract, we were just saying, what? How much money? Are you insane?
Excuse me, for Jeff Skinner, whose best season was his rookie season. Yeah.
And they're also at the brink of the salary cap, and they've not played any meaningful games in past March in the past 8 years.
Oh, and you just look at this roster and you think, why the fuck is this team less than $1 million away from the salary cap ceiling? You got fucking Kyle Oposo, Wayne Simmons, Michael Frolik, Jimmy Vesey, Jimmy Vesey, Ristolainen, fucking Brandon Montour. Jesus, fucking Lawrence Paluta's just said, fuck this, I'm going to the KHL. Like,
God.
I'm not being funny, but like, if you're mishandling your relatively good prospects so badly that they're saying, fuck this, I'm going to go play in the KHL, you're probably doing something wrong. Probably.
Do you know what as well? They've only got 4 forwards signed for next season so far. I get it, it's because, I know, obviously it's all gone crazy, but...
Yeah, it's a bit
and
worrying,
those 4 forwards take up $13 million.
They fucking do.
I mean, fair enough. One of them's Jack Eichel, but the other 3 are not Jack Eichel.
To be fair, Dan, it's only $29 million.
Oh no,
sorry, $29.5 million.
Yeah, I was being very mean there. But
that's a very, very unfair misrepresenting the facts. It's beautiful, and like the Eichel comments this week of I was just tired of losing.
Yeah, I'll read this quote to you. Verbatim from Mr. Eichel. Listen, I'm fed up with the losing, and I'm fed up, and I'm frustrated. It's definitely not an easy pill to swallow right now. It's been a tough couple of months. It's been a tough 5 years with where things have went. I'm a competitor. I want to win every time I go on the ice. I want to win the Stanley Cup every time I start a season. I've already started preparing for next season now. Fucking hell, Jack, you poor bastard. Just have a Mars bar and chill out. I'm already back on the ice. I'm already in training. I'm already doing things to try and better myself at the start of next season, whenever that is. I'd be lying if I said that I'm not getting frustrated where things are going. I'll say, I think we took a step this year. No, you didn't. I will say it's been a pleasure working with Ralph, and he does so much for our group, even on off days. There are tough times, and he does an amazing job of bringing us back in and narrowing our focus and getting us back to where we need to be mentally. The few times I've spoken to him during this quarantine, it's been good. But yeah, I'm definitely not in the greatest place with where the last little bit went, and it's definitely worn on me. Fucking hell, mate. No shit.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It does a little bit, doesn't it?
Sounds just like a similar. I feel like we've heard this story before.
He just needed to say at the end, and I've lost my smile. I've heard the Blues are looking for a second line centre.
The difference between Eichel's comments and the whole thing with O'Reilly a couple of seasons ago is I have not got a shred of sympathy for Jack Eichel. Not a fucking iota of it. That's what you get, mate. That's what you get. That's what you get for signing that long a contract when you are but a boy in fucking Buffalo.
We've got a long enough catalogue of audio now that we can say, and we say this sometimes, that, yeah, we said this years ago. One of the first ever things I remember you saying to me was, why the fuck do these young players think they owe these teams all these years? And it was about Jack Eichel. And you said, why has Jack Eichel signed for this team? They're not going anywhere. They've got no idea. They're not good. And it was just, he's just seen the money signs and gone, $80 million. Oh my God, yes. And that's it.
I don't like the whole idea of like a culture of losing. You know, the whole idea that like, oh, these Wolves are losing. You know, as soon as you come into this rink, you're a loser or whatever. But fucking hell, we're on to GM number 2 and they're still fucking shit. Shit, Dan. They're fucking awful. Like, I don't get how a team can be so. Does it then come down to like the ownership and the people who are hiring the people who hire the people? You know what I mean? Like, if both Jason Botterill and Tim Murray have done such a bad job building squads, it's got to come down to the Pagulas at some point to say, look, you keep hiring these fucking shitheads to build these teams that are crap. That's your fault. The fact that Jason Botterill's made another fucking 80-point team.
You get all the time on, talking head shows and all that shit, people saying, well, yeah, but the players are the ones who go out on the ice and do the thing and blah, blah, blah. How many times have we seen a new GM or a new coach step into a team, oh, and look, suddenly these players know how to play the game. Mm-hmm. Look at the Islanders. Look at, like, fucking Lou gets in there, the fucking Bond villain gets in there. What's his fucking name?
What, Barry Trotz?
Barry Trotz.
I thought you meant Lou's the Bond villain. How is Barry Trotz a fucking Bond villain?
He looks like he looks like a Western Oddjob. He's like 4 foot high and 4 foot wide. Anyway. but like, yeah. I mean, look at like Ken Holland in Edmonton. I mean, really, what's changed in Edmonton apart from Kenny Holland's gone in there? And he's clearly made a few changes. All their players are pretty much the same. There's like maybe 1 or 2 that have changed. Same with the Islanders. Suddenly the Islanders went from being, oh God, they've got Matt Barzal and then it became, oh, actually, no, they've actually got more players than this. They play to a strength. They know what they're doing. Their goalies are always good. They're tough to break down. Look at Torts in Columbus. I mean, put a different coach in that position. You think Columbus are going to be as good? No, they're not. Torts knows how to coach those players. He's a good coach. Coaches and GMs absolutely matter. The players have to execute what's happening. Yes, I agree. But all the time, all this, well, the players are the ones who go on the ice and do it. You can't expect your GM to go on the ice and play the game. No, but I expect your GM to not give Jeff Skinner $9 million, so he'll then have a bit more money that, well, if at the deadline, okay, there's a guy hanging around here for $2.5 million, yeah, we could probably do something with that guy, actually. Then you can go and do it. And then, it can give your team a bit of a lift.
So do you think it's a Botterill problem or a Kruger problem?
I think it's a Botterill problem.
Yep.
I do.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
All right, okay. I mean, I'm talking about the Islanders, and obviously Lou and Trotz go in, and suddenly this team turns around, and they're actually really good. They lose their franchise player for nothing, and everyone's just like, well, Jesus Christ! And look at the Flyers. I mean, you're telling me that everyone had the Flyers as the 4th best team at this point in the season, and no, of course they didn't. King Ghidorah's gone in there, and they've worked out a system, and they're working it well. So that shows that was the coaches who've done that. But then the Islanders, Lou and Barry Trotz, okay, that's them doing it together. Ken Holland's gone into Edmonton, okay, there's a change there. That's working. It's not just the players. It's why Ralph Kruger's probably going to keep his job. You're going to get another coach in Buffalo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, definitely the coach. Like, you can't change a coach every season and expect it to work. But I do kind of think they probably should have binned off Botterill because he hasn't done enough.
Oh, I agree. If you're the GM and there is not one marked improvement in 3 years, then yeah, you should be gone. You should be canned.
Yeah, see you later, mate. It's over.
You've had 3 years. If there's no, fair enough, you might not get into the playoffs, but probably the two best teams. Well, you could argue the 2 best teams in the past 2 years were Boston and Tampa. They're playing in your league. It's going to be tricky to get to the playoffs in that division, but you should at least be making progress. Okay, we're a bit closer. We're getting there.
Yeah, there is no marked improvement.
No, there's just nothing. And that's a Botterill problem.
And it's situations with like things like they just have not. He hasn't. He hasn't addressed intrinsic issues with the club. Like, why the fuck is Rasmus Ristolainen still a Buffalo Sabre? He's got to have gone. They've got too much money tied up in mediocre defensemen, and he wasn't able to shift any of them. You got Zach Bogosian on a blooming buyout. Yeah, congratulations. But that's that's fucking it. He's still got so many players that just should not be there at all.
What were we talking about last season? We talked all the time about how we felt sorry for a guy making $12.5 million a year in Edmonton. And we said, like, this dude's just fucking depressed. And we laughed and joked about him going home. He just, he's playing putt-putt golf with his fucking leg all braced up, looking sad as shit, with a t-shirt with a no happy face on it. And we're just like, Jesus Christ, Connor. Like, God, mate, I feel so sorry for you. You must be fucking miserable. And this is the leader of your club, the captain of your club. Ken Holland goes in, all of a sudden, he has a sit down with Connor. He gets talking to him. Connor, what do you think we should do? How do you want to do this? What do you think is a good idea? How would you change things for some of the players? Gets his captain involved. The captain then drives the ship. Your best player starts making things happen around, not just on the ice, but off the ice. And suddenly the team's fortunes change around. That's what needs to happen with Eichel. A GM needs to go in, change everything around and say, right, what's been the culture here? Why aren't you guys playing well? A GM should be making, tough decisions. So that's what they get paid to do. But I think if I was a captain of the team, if I'm Jack Eichel, and the GM says, I want to talk to you in my office in private, and you go up and have a chat, and he says to me, okay, Jack, what do you want to happen? Like, how can we make this better for you? Like, you're our golden goose. I'd be thinking, all right, good. He actually values my opinion. He actually wants to talk to me and get ideas, and we can work this as a team. And that's what it should be. But it just seems in Buffalo that you've got the players and the coach and the GM and the owners, instead of having like this kind of cohesive unit.
And I think the fact that Eichel's coming out and saying all these things, openly giving his frustration to the media, similar to what happened with Connor when Chiarelli was still in charge, it shows a lack of cohesion between him and Botterill. Because I think to an extent, if Eichel had faith that Botterill was working in his best interest and doing what he thought was best, or at least working in the way that Eichel understood as this is going to be beneficial for us in the long run, he wouldn't be out there making those comments to ultimately undermine what Botterill's doing. So once you've lost your star player, how are you going to build a successful hockey club? If you don't understand the needs of the player that you have to build this team around, because it's Eichel and Darlene, those are your two. Everyone else is expendable as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, you've got some good young players in like Victor Olofsson, Henry Yokaru and stuff like that. But if you're not building around Jack Eichel and Rasmus Dahlin, you're not doing it properly.
Yeah, agreed. Because once those players go on the ice, they're looking at who's on the ice with them. They're not turning around mid-play, looking at the coach going, what am I doing? What do you want me to do here? No, they're looking at what Eichel's doing. Like, okay, this guy's pushing, he's driving, he wants to win, he wants to push harder. Shit, I'd better keep up with him, I'd better go, I'd better do this. And instead, Jack's getting on the ice just like, dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum. And everyone's just looking at him thinking, oh, fucking hell. There's a guy making $10 million and he's miserable. How am I going to feel? I'm only making like $2 million. I'm miserable as well.
And it's not just about the players that are on the ice with him. There's got to be an element of enough depth within the squad and the roster, down the lineup, that Eichel doesn't think I'm the only fucking hockey player here. If I'm not scoring tonight, nobody's fucking scoring. Yeah. And I think, not that McDavid necessarily has that apart from Draisaitl in Edmonton, but I think as a player, once you've got confidence in the teammates around you, you're not gripping your stick so tight as they say. You're not trying to win it every shift, so you're able to be more effective.
Also this week, there's a little, not really anything worth deep diving on this, but Steve Yzerman said there are no plans as yet for any coaching changes in Detroit. He was in a Zoom media conference call the other day, and I picked up my favourite quote here, Will, which is, I think the word is devastating. Quite frankly, we need help in every area. We need to score more goals, we need to improve defensively, we need to improve in net. All right then, okay, Lots of problems there then.
Yeah, fair play, Stevie White. I think he said something along the lines of like, oh yeah, it wouldn't be fair to judge Blashill's coaching prowess based on the team we had assembled for this season, and yeah, fair play. And I think
it's true. There's been a lot of jokes in there about Jeff Blashill, like, well, clearly he's the right man for the job because they're guaranteed a top draft pick. He's done exactly what was asked of him. But how can you judge a coach when he's dealing with a roster this bad, with a team that is going to have to build through the draft and just wait a few years to get some contracts off their books? You can't really pick out any mistakes he's made yet because he's not an even chance to kind of put a team together.
No, I mean, I don't think Blashill's been a fantastic coach because we've seen good coaches get better out of, get good stuff out of bad rosters before, but ever since he came to Detroit, he's not really had a good roster at all. And I think Stevie Y made the right decision because it's a win-win for him. Either Blashill flakes out and isn't any good again, so they get another high draft pick, or he turns out to be decent enough. And one more year to truly evaluate what Blashill can bring to the Detroit Red Wings is by no means a bad thing.
No. And, in the last 3 drafts, they've picked 6th, and 9th.
Decent picks, but not life-changing picks.
Yeah, decent, but yeah, you need, as we've seen, if you can get a generational talent on your team, it can make all the difference. All the difference.
It does make all the difference. And all due respect to, your Philip Zadinas, your Moritz Siders and all that, like, they're not Lafreniere, they're not Byfield, they're not Matthews, they're not McDavid. Like, the fact of the matter is either you get lucky with a superstar further down the sort of draft list, or you pick 1 or 2. Those are your choices. Yeah. That's the only way you're really going to change your team's fortune around by a team that's in Detroit's position. You look at all of the top teams in the league. So Tampa, they've got 2 top 2 picks in Stamkos and Hedman. Colorado have got Nathan McKinnon. Obviously, you've got Crosby and Malkin in Pittsburgh. Even down to, Boston's not necessarily a good example, but they found superstars later in the draft in your Brad Marchands and your Bergerons, and even Pasternak. But was Pasternak like 25th overall or something like that? 25th,
yeah. Yeah, that's the like you said though. That's the other side of it, isn't it? You either get first or second, or you have to get lucky.
Yeah.
With later on, picking down the list, and that's what the Bruins have done.
And Bergeron is lucky because if it's not lucky, you would have picked him earlier in the draft. Someone else would have picked him earlier in the draft. Exactly.
Yeah,
but then
exactly.
If you look at teams that maybe Detroit are trying to emulate, you've got, like, say, the Rangers to Kako, 2nd overall last year. The Devils have had 2 number 1 picks in 3 years. Even Vancouver, you'd argue, got pretty lucky with getting Pettersson at 5th overall. And then Quinn Hughes at 6th. You've just got to, if you're not getting those high draft picks and getting either someone dropping to you or the guaranteed 1-2 spot, you're stuffed.
I'll be intrigued to see what they do next season. That's when I'll pay attention to them more.
Like this off-season, and just how sort of liberal Eisenman's going to be with, like, the scissors and that. What is he going to buy out Justin Abdelkader? Is he going to go that extreme or whatever? Is he going to... What sort of creative ways is he going to do to remould the hockey club in his vision? That's the question.
Here's a question. Why do you hate the Henderson Silver Knights?
Oh, because it's fucking, like... You might as well be the Golden Knights B. Do you know what I mean? Like, naming your AHL affiliate as the second team of the Golden Knights. I don't want to use the word beta, but that is what it is, and it's not. Yeah, practically that is what an AHL affiliate is for an AHL club. It's your players aren't quite good enough for your NHL club that you want to keep on retainer and keep them playing meaningful hockey. But to name your entire team as the secondary, the inferior version of your sort of your parent club, it's fucking lame if you ask me.
I really don't mind it. I mean,
it's not.
They should be the Silver Knights. They're the second. Yeah. They're the next level down. They're the Silver Knights.
It makes sense. It definitely makes sense. I'm not saying it's dumb in the sense they called them like, we're the Henderson wallaby smashers. Like it's but a much better name, might I say. it's just I don't even really like when like an AHL team's name is the same as their parent club's team. So like you got the Iowa Wild, the Texas Stars,
Providence Bruins.
Yeah, it's like that's not as bad, but that's still an element of our only identity is rooted in our parent club's identity. I prefer more when you've got like, the Chicago Wolves, the Springfield Falcons, like clubs in their own right, because they are clubs in their own right. As much as they rely heavily on these parent clubs for not only funding most of the time, most of their star players come in the form of prospects that come through the AHL system, but for those fans, it is their team. Generally, a lot of the core AHL fan base are a fan of AHL teams. They're not a fan of NHL teams. They're not putting their money towards NHL clubs because it's not affordable or whatever it might be. It's not in their market. So to completely stylise your club as the feeder team to a parent club in the NHL robs yourself of some identity, I think, and robs your fans of that ability to identify with a team that is their own. Because if I'm sitting around in where is it? In Cedar Park, Texas, and I'm a Texas Stars fan, there's going to be something in the back of my mind that is constantly reminded that this is the inferior product compared to the Dallas Stars. It's not my team, it's the Stars. It's like going and watching fucking Man United reserves. So this is nice for a fiver, but it's not Man United. Right then. You've got to get what I mean, haven't you?
I get it more with teams who have the same name as their NHL the NHL parent club. Yeah, I get that. I think it should be a different name, but I'm all for this. I don't know. I really don't mind. I really don't mind it. What would you have called them? What would you have called them?
I don't know anything about the city of Henderson, so the Henderson.
But nothing related to medieval anything. Just a completely new random.
Yeah, I think I would kind of steer clear of the medieval theme because that does still come back to linked to the Knights. And again, I get that it's a Bill. They're owned by Bill Foley, so to an extent that's kind of unavoidable because he's going to want everything linked together. But
the Henderson Foleys.
Henderson Foleys, yeah, absolutely.
How about the Henderson Jesters? How about that?
Yeah, all right. I do think Silver Knights is especially egregious. Like, I don't know, you call them the Henderson Jousters or whatever it might be, the Henderson King. That's not going to be quite as bad. But the fact is that Silver Knights, it's like, come on, mate.
Do you know what? I'll give you the Jousters. That's not bad.
There you go. See, I'm here. Don't you worry about that. Bill Foley, let me know. But if you cool. You might as well be Barcelona B, mightn't you?
If listening, Bill, if you need an ideas man, I've got an ideas man for you.
You have to talk to me to talk to the ideas man.
Yeah, you can't talk to you. You've got to go through me first. I'm your agent. I'll be taking 10%. I'm going to ferris this shit.
You got to.
I'm having you on a holdout and everything.
I was going to say before I've even done an iota of work, like, right, Bill. I ain't working.
Kids not even won anything yet. Why are you getting paid all this money?
I'm not even fucking working until you give me a pay rise. Yeah,
do you remember the fun days of Mitch Marner's contract discussions? Weren't they fun?
Jesus fucking Christ!
How I long for those days.
I do not long for those days. That was boring as sin. Oh my God!
I'm sure we'll have another one soon.
It would have been more interesting if he hadn't signed at the end of it. But
oh God, yeah! If he'd taken one of those offer sheets,
or if he'd just sat the year out or whatever.
Yeah, gone and played in Sweden.
Anything. Oh, that'd have been cool. But no, it was just predictable. Fair enough. It's a cool logo though for the Silver Knights.
It is actually, yeah. The logo's pretty sweet.
It's pretty naughty. Did you see the little video they put out about this has been months in the making, this logo?
No.
So they put out this little, like, I suppose, like, concept art montage for the logo, and the whole point was, this hasn't happened overnight, this has been months in the making. But like the initial concept art they start with to sort of go on the journey of it, it's not like rough outlines of different types of logos. It's just the Silver Knights logo as it is but like deconstructed into just colour splashes. So it's like because there's like a shield shape or something at the back, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's like the rough shape of it, and then just a splash of silver and a splash of yellow or whatever it is.
So it's basically this idea's been in the works for months, but it was actually the first idea they had, and they all went, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. That'll do."
And the way we started it was we got a shield shape off of Getty Images, and then we chose 2 colours. It's like a fucking kids PC game where it's like, oh, you click on that red shape and it's turned into a letter C. Click on the green one and it's turned into a letter O or whatever. It's ridiculous.
You know they paid a fortune for that design team as well, don't you? You just know it.
and just everything to do with it. Bill Foley's paid like 10 times above the market value because he's like, I do not want this one to go as badly as the last one did.
Yeah, that's true. The last one was a wet fart.
Someone says,
this one better be good.
Bill, because of the COVID-19 situation, we can't unfortunately have a live reveal of the AHL club. He's like, thank fuck for that. Just do it on the internet.
Just stick it on Twitter. Stick it on a mailing list. That'll do. Do we still send out letters? Yeah, send some letters out as well.
Send some videotapes out for him.
Alrighty, there we go. Thank you for listening, everybody. That's this week's show. Will, any last words?
I do have some last words. That's like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I regretfully must apologise to the NHL because last week I chastised them for not following in the NBA's footsteps and making all of their season's games available to the public. I foolishly checked the NHL app this past week and have discovered that I was completely wrong, and they've done exactly that. Yeah. And you can watch any NHL game on the NHL TV app for free for I don't know for how long, but I've got the Rangers and the Maple Leafs on my second screen as we speak, so clearly it's still working. Sorry, Gaz.
Well,
I was wrong.
Hang on though. So you made that rant, and then you checked it this week. Clearly, they've got people listening to the show.
They've been listening. You're welcome, Gaz. Talk to my agent Darren Ferris, and then talk to Dan. About how much money you're on there.
I have an ideas man. For you, Gaz. Just come and see me first, and we'll sort something out.
But it's good. It's good. I'm glad they've done that because it's given me at least 35 minutes of entertainment this week. I appreciate it.
There we go. All right, take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Peace.